Hello, everyone. Happy New Year and welcome to Smartkarma's Webinar Wednesday. I'm Michael Tegos. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Criss Wang, healthcare expert with many years of experience in the healthcare sector of China. I will let Criss introduce herself in just a second, but in the meantime, some housekeeping to take care of first. You are always welcome to send in questions for Criss using the Q&A button on your screen. And please do not reshare or reproduce the contents of this webinar without permission. As always, a recording will be available on the registration page afterwards. I will pass it to Criss for her introduction. Criss, welcome to the webinar, and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. This is Criss from Shanghai, China. Thanks for having me today. Happy New Year. So first of all, please allow me to introduce myself. My career started in Ernst & Young as an auditor, and more than 60% of my projects are coming from healthcare industry. I was very interested in the global work, and Duke MBA was a great platform for me to move into that direction. After graduation from Duke, I joined DaVita Kidney Care in the United States. In day-to-day clinic operation, I accumulated valuable experience in the frontline clinic work from both medical and financial aspects. After coming back to China, I joined Fresenius Medical Care. In Fresenius, I relocated from my hometown Shanghai to Quanzhou, Fujian province to help the company build the first ever foreign invested dialysis center in China. I was in charge of this de novo project and covered budgeting, facility, fire protection, doctors, nurses, recruiting and training, procurements, operation, and negotiation with local government agencies for the licensing and medical insurance coverage. After I successfully closed the deal, I joined Fosun Pharma. In Fosun, I worked as the investment director to work on deals including pharmaceuticals, MediDevice, digital healthcare services, and provider business in both China and overseas market. This is my background before I joined Smartkarma. Now, let's go to the next part. The presentation today would mainly include the following parts. First of all, let's do a quick performance review for the stocks in the article. Secondly, let's review what happened in the capital markets in healthcare sector in 2020 and in recent months. Thirdly, I would explain the logic behind the rally of the stock price, including Hengrui, WuXi AppTec, and Top Choice. Fourthly, let's discuss the investment trend in 2021. And finally, I will be open to questions. Okay, now let's go to the next part. Okay, the first part is stock performance review. In the article 2021 High Conviction Investment Opportunities in China Healthcare Industry, I mainly pitched the three stocks. They are Hengrui, WuXi AppTec, and Top Choice. This article was published on November 23rd, 2020. By the end of Tuesday, January 12th, 2021, the performance of these stocks are summarized in the chart. The average return of the three stocks in the chart during this period was about 38%, higher than the return of both the CSI 300 and healthcare sector. All of the three stocks outperformed the market. Okay, now let's go to the next part. The second one is market review. In the first half of 2020, because of the COVID-19, the healthcare industry outperformed the market significantly. Then, as the epidemic in China has been effectively under control and the resumption of work and production has been promoted, domestic investment hotspots have been frequently switched, and the healthcare sector has undergone periodic adjustments. In the second half of 2020, the advance of new volume-based purchasing policy in the field of drugs and high-value medical consumables also negatively impact the performance of the healthcare sector. In December 2020, as the medical insurance negotiations was completed, the healthcare sector ushered in a rebound. There could be some adjustments in the short term. However, in the middle to long term, we still think that the rebound of the healthcare sector could be sustained. Because firstly, the official results of 2020 medical insurance negotiations was released, which largely eliminated the policy uncertainty. Secondly, the demand of the healthcare sector is relatively rigid, and the policies gradually guide the industry to maintain healthy development. The long-term performance growth of high-quality enterprises is still highly certain. Now let's go to the next part. The third part is the logic behind the rally of the stock price. First one is Hengrui. Hengrui is a big winner in the 2020 medical insurance negotiations. The company announced that 4 products, including camrelizumab, esketamine hydrochloride injection, pegasparagase injection, and paclitaxel for injection, were successfully included in the 2020 medical insurance catalog. It is estimated that the sales revenue of camrelizumab could reach about RMB 9 billion in 2021, and the total revenue this year could also be optimistic. Therefore, Hengrui hit a new high recently due to the promising prospect. Good news from this negotiation and the price reduction of PD-1 was also better than the market expectation. Besides, in 2021, other important drugs, including ritagliptin, hirambolpac, famotidine, and hinagliflozin, could also get fast approval as the priority review, special approval, or major special listing. The company also has got a couple of drugs currently at the clinical stage 3 and are expected to be launched in succession. It is expected that in the next 3 to 5 years, Hengrui would have new drugs to be launched every year. The second stock is WuXi AppTec. WuXi AppTec is a leading CRO CDMO company with full service chain layout, is constantly expanding new service platforms and building various business capabilities to constantly improve the business model and ceiling of the company. We found that the business cycle is accelerating upward. Meanwhile, based on the analysis of the company's contract liabilities, inventories, construction in process, fixed assets, and other financial indicators, we found that WuXi AppTec's business in the next 3 to 5 years is still expected to increase rapidly. For example, in the third quarter of 2020, the added value of contract liabilities reached about 412% year-on-year growth compared with the beginning of the year. Besides, the increase in inventories and the release of new production capacity are also expected to bring rapid growth performance for the company in the future. In addition, as the epidemic continues to spread overseas, it is expected that overseas CRO CDMO business would further accelerate its transfer to China. Meanwhile, China has sufficient talent supply, lower labor cost, and a relatively large number of patients in various diseases. Therefore, the cost of patient recruitment is far lower than that in developed countries, which further drive the development of domestic CRO CDMO. The third stock is Top Choice. By 2019, the market size of dental care service in China is about RMB 98.5 billion, with a compound annual growth rate of 18% over the next 5 years. Every year, Chinese people spend about $9.4 per person on oral care, and compared with $341 per person in the United States, there is a still big gap. Supported by the policies, it is an inevitable trend for the development of specialized dental hospitals. Top Choice, as the leading enterprise of dental care service in China, with revenue and profits far outstripping the peers. Besides, dental care expansion is particularly difficult there are very few successful cases of large-scale dental expansion in the world. After all, dental care is a manual industry, which means it is very dependent on high-quality and high-skilled dentists. But in China, dentists are a very scarce resource. However, Top Choice has successful realization of the standardization scale and the process of dentistry. Besides, Top Choice has its own dental school to cultivate its own dental talents so that the company has a successful replication and expansion capability, which is very rare in the dental care companies in China. This is the moat of Top Choice. It's a scale investment target in China's secondary capital market. It is no surprise that the company hit new highs recently. Okay, now let's go to the next part. The fourth part is the investment trend in 2021. Firstly, by 2019, China's CRO industry scale is about RMB 80.5 billion, with a year-on-year growth rate of 20%. Compared with the penetration ratio of global CRO industry, China CRO market penetration ratio is relatively low, increasing from 26% in 2013 to 32% in 2018. By 2022, it is expected to increase to 40.3%. Besides, with favorable policy for innovative drugs and the gradual promotion of consistency evaluation and intensive procurement nationwide, the generic drugs are facing challenges. Therefore, pharmaceutical companies have increased their investment in R&D of innovative drugs or cooperate with CRO enterprises to develop drugs with clinical value. It is expected that the demand of CRO services in China will increase rapidly. Secondly, in recent years, China's digital healthcare industry has developed rapidly with a compound annual growth rate of over 30%. And the advantage of digital healthcare business are amplified during this epidemic. In 2019, China digital healthcare market size was about RMB 27 billion. In 2026, it is expected to reach about RMB 198 billion. In terms of policies, last year, China has released new policy about the medical insurance coverage for digital healthcare services. Besides, prescription outflow is also an important emerging trend in this industry. China out-of-hospital pharmaceutical market is expected to grow faster than in-hospital market. In 2019, the online sales in out-of-hospital market was about RMB 39 billion, and is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 38% from 2019 to 2024, much higher than the compound annual growth rate of offline sales in out-of-hospital market, which is about 13.2%. Besides, the online OTC market in 2019 was about RMB 25 billion, with a compound annual growth rate of about 33% from 2019 to 2024. With favorable policy and the large market potential, it is expected that the golden timing for digital healthcare industry is coming in China. Thirdly, with the improvement of public healthcare demand, the acceleration of population aging, and the increase of commercial insurance coverage, there is a growing demand for high-quality medical services. The market size is expected to reach about RMB 7,734 billion in 2021, with a compound annual growth rate of above 13%. Therefore, the development of high-quality provider business would be a future trend. Besides, due to the cost control of government medical insurance, many medical service institutions are under pressure, but for those with strong consumption attributes, such as eye care, dental care, medical beauty, etc., they could still grow rapidly against the trend. A relatively high proportion of medical services with consumption attributes is paid out of pocket, so it is less dependent on medical insurance reimbursement and is also relatively less restricted by the government medical insurance policy change. The above 3 points are the major trends in China healthcare industry. We believe that there would be good investment opportunities from these trends. Thank you. Now, I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much for this, Chris. That was a very concise and very informative presentation of the situation on the ground there. We have a question from the audience, and I will remind everyone that you can send in your questions using the Q&A button on your Zoom app. Are there any interesting healthcare IPOs in China in 2021 that investors should watch out for?
Well, currently, I think 2 IPOs are pretty eye-catching to me. One is the EduTech. The other is the Micropod CardioFlow. I think that is the 2 IPOs I will pay attention to at the current stage.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is particularly striking about these IPOs? Like, do these companies sort of show promise in the way that, in a similar way to the companies that you just covered?
Because EduTech is pretty special. It is the leading company in its industry, kind of like the cloud service, the AI technology. So as the first IPO in this sector, particularly, this company, if IPO successfully and reach a pretty good share pricing, it will tend to, form the industry standards in this cloud service or AI technology sector. So I think it is very promising. And if you see its financial performance or its market potential, this is always pretty good. And for the Micropod CardioFlow, it is represent the cutting edge technologies in the TAVR industry. So we know that currently in China, there is a volume-based purchasing policy or procurement policies towards many devices. So a lot of high-value consumable companies, many device companies are facing challenges. But for those high-tech, especially cutting-edge technologies company, they still can charge higher premium or higher price, and they are not need to worry about the VBP at the current stage in the short term. And the Micropod CardioFlow is just one of these companies who has got strong innovation capability and also one of the leading companies in the TAVR sector in China.
I see. Thank you for that. We have one more question from the audience. So you mentioned the trend of digital healthcare and the opportunity that there is in this sector. So what are some of the names that you would be highlighting there?
Currently, in the digital healthcare industry, there are major 3 stocks in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. One is JD Health, another is Alibaba Health, and the third one is Ping An Good Doctor. So all of these 3 stocks have both its strengths and concerns. If you see my articles, I think I wrote about 2 articles to cover these 3 stocks on Smartkarma. So I think because of the favorable trends in the digital healthcare service sector, especially the policies and also development in the prescription outflow. So I think there's a growth potential for these stocks, for these companies to develop in China. These 3 stocks, I think I will pay a close attention to.
Actually, speaking of policy, and it's something that you mentioned throughout your presentation, but do you think that the current policy environment in China seems to favor this kind of innovative newcomers? Or do you think it gives the advantage to established companies like the ones that you initially highlighted?
Well, in terms of policies, I have to say that it may be the same, whether if you are newcomers or already the giant of pharmaceutical companies, because it's the same to everyone. So, but for the 3 stocks that I mentioned in this article, I have to say that either WuXi, Henry, or Toptrace, they are the leading company, or even I could say that they are the benchmark company in their relatively related sector, which means that they have got much stronger core strength in terms of financial performance, commercialization capability, R&D, personnel, or the whole ecosystem, which means that in terms of policy change, they have got stronger power or capability to reflect quickly and adapt itself better or adjust itself better to in face of the policy change. A very good example is that, for example, for Henry, in 2019, Henry's knockout product, PD1, was not approved for market launch. However, from the perspective of major hospitals, even not covered by the medical insurance, the sales volume in the second quarter of 2020 had already reached about RMB 77 million. So just an example for your reference. So we can see that the top leading companies, like at that level, could have stronger capabilities to handle those policy change.
Right. Another question from the audience has to do with funding from venture capital and private equity. So in 2020, we saw a fall in this type of investment in Chinese internet and technology companies. What is the sense for the healthcare sector in that regard?
I think the fall in the PE or VC investments in the TMT companies was mainly due to the COVID-19 outbreak. And also, because of the COVID-19, so a lot of funds or companies had a very difficult time in China. So you can see that the totally fundraising process is slowing down, also the kind of like downward trend. But in the healthcare sector, it's always, I have to say that it's always pretty hot topics in China compared with TMT industry. So you can see that a lot of PE or VC firms still try to put their money in the top leading healthcare unicorn companies. So, and you can see that a lot of PE VC, or personal investors, before they probably never get involved in the healthcare sector. But because of the COVID-19, the improved awareness, the healthcare, they began to put their money aside to focus on the healthcare sector as well. So I think in the future, whether it's in the short term or in the long term, there will still be a hot topic in healthcare.
Another question from the audience has to do with something that we're all thinking about now, certainly. So in terms of, speaking of the COVID-19 pandemic, and given that the entire world is kind of currently undergoing vaccination efforts, do you have any thoughts on the efficacy of some of them, especially regarding the recent rollouts in some countries? Do you have any near-term calls in that regard?
Current stage, honestly, I didn't do a specific research on the COVID-19 vaccine part. But I think in China, a lot of companies already cover the sectors such as Chongqing Zhifei biological products. Their COVID-19 products is already in the clinical stage 3. And it is expected that it will be launched in the first half of this year. Other companies like Sinopharm, they also have got pretty fast clinical progress, COVID-19 vaccines as well. And the Chinese government, they also demand that the vaccines in China should be free of charge. So I think in terms of either speed or the effectiveness, Chinese pharmaceutical companies did a good job in the COVID-19 vaccine production.
Right. And again, from the audience, there's a question about valuations for the 3 stocks that you mentioned, and how should investors look at them. Do you have any comment relating to valuations?
Okay, so valuation thing is totally dependent on Excel sheet, and it's really difficult to speak to answer this question in a couple of minutes right now. But for me, when I make the projection for the 3 stocks, honestly, especially the projection of the P&L performance, I refer to a lot of resources. So not only the financial statements, the company website, the press release, But also sometimes I have to track with those, suppliers in the procurement sectors, and also their performance in revenue performance, for example, the related parties, such as how their revenue perform before or after, and listen to their professional advice. So I think if you really want to know the valuation thing, I think we should find another good time, and we can talk on Smartkarma through private message. I can explain to you more. Yeah.
Of course, and I will remind everyone that Criss is also available for direct engagements, and you can contact your Smartkarma account manager to learn more in this regard. Just as a maybe a final question, as we are getting close to time, is there a potential impact to the companies that you highlighted from international competition, or do you think that they're pretty secure in their home market?
Well, yeah. So for Wuxi Tech, I mean, for the three stocks I mentioned in this article, the heavy internationalization exposure are mainly coming from Wuxi Tech and Hengrui. For Wuxi Tech, after China becoming a member of ICH, I mean the International Conference on Harmonization, the R&D of domestic innovative drugs and clinical trials will be further strengthened in terms of access mechanism, standardization, and operability. So domestic companies, especially domestic CRO companies, will have to face more brutal international competition and stricter international standards. However, Wuxi Tech has already established its branding and reputation overseas. And together with its core strength, or R&D team, the capability, and what I've mentioned in the presentation, such as the lower cost, larger patient size in China. So currently, Wuxi Tech could handle the risk pretty well. For Hengrui, well, in the past years, honestly, Hengrui put major focus on the domestic market. Therefore, its overseas business performance is also not as good as its domestic business. For example, the overseas partners may not be strong enough to expand the market for Hengrui. But in recent years, the management of Hengrui has already realized the problem and began to focus more on the international market. For example, they are trying to find more qualified business partners overseas, and they are trying to cultivate their own teams and begin to send them to the overseas market instead of just cooperate with some third-party agencies, so that they can have a better control of their people in overseas market for the business development. So we can see that in the future, Hengrui will probably, lay more emphasis on the overseas business.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that, Criss. And that's just about all the time that we have today. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. As I mentioned before, do contact your Smartkarma account manager if you would like to engage Criss directly. They will be able to help you. And if you have any other questions, please email us at research@smartkarma.com. Thank you, Criss, once again very much, and have a great day, everyone.
Okay, thank you.